Well, I am so thrilled to talk to our guest tonight. She started off as a drag queen wannabe in Rochester, New York, then found herself Queen of Rochester, and then appearing in the 7th season of RuPaul's Drag Race. And then she created this documentary that's winning all types of awards. Before we bring her on, let's watch the trailer to her documentary.
Hello, I'm Kasha Davis. Welcome to Suburbia.
The biggest inspiration for me creating Mrs. Kasha Davis is emulating my mom. I started doing drag later in my life. And looking at the gay world, we didn't necessarily fit in. We wanted to have the home, the pool, the kids. This life that we had previously with our ex-wives. So I always wanted to be a full-time performer. And I realized at the age of 44, it's not too late. Going on RuPaul's Drag Race, I just felt like this is going to be a whole new adventure, a whole new life.
Drag Race really put us in the forefront of entertainment.
TV definitely changed the game. And with it comes good and bad.
It kills me that I have not gotten on there.
I get frustrated with our community, saying everybody should be young, white, and thin. You're too old, roll over and die. My insecurities took over, and it really began to get out of control. Well, everybody likes a cocktail.
There's always time for a cocktail. There's always time for a cocktail.
His drinking had started to escalate. And at that point, I was ready to end the relationship.
RuPaul's Drag Race created this template of how to be a celebrity drag queen. And it seemed to me that maybe I didn't fit that mold.
I'm proud of her and the fact that she's stretching out of whatever she thought her version of drag was. She's showing that there are no rules.
Grab hold of your dream and hold it close to your heart. You've got to run and jump, skip to the side. Because you have to practice, and work hard, and never give up.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack in that trailer, and we're bringing in that queen to help us unpack it all. Please welcome to my basement, Mrs. Kasha Davis. Mrs. Davis, come on in.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
Well, good. Glad to be had, I'm sure. All right. So there's so much where to start. So it all began in Rochester, New York, and you decided you wanted to be a drag queen. How did that come about?
You know, I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, in a little town outside of Scranton called Taylor. And basically, when I got divorced and came out, it was in the late 90s. But it was really 1970 in Scranton, and then I came here to Rochester. So I hadn't really had much experience seeing drag queens, and then I'm coming out of the closet, and I gravitate to the clubs, and it was like Oz. You know, Rochester was I saw my first gay pride, I saw my first rainbow flag, and started to realize what all these things were. And I saw the drag queens, Pandora Box, Darien Lake, Aggie June, Ambrosia Salad, and they were just gorgeous and wonderful. And I didn't necessarily think I would be a drag queen. I didn't think I wanted to be until Mr. Davis and I took a trip to P-Town, and we saw Miss Richfield 1981.
She's been a guest. She's been a guest on the show many times. She's a dear friend, and this will air right when we return from P-Town, and I'm sure we'll have some clips of her. So how old were you when you came out?
Oh gosh. Well, so I came out, I was 28 when I came out. And so that was probably in my early 30s where Mr. Davis and I went to see Miss Richfield. And, you know, she was just, I had the theater background, and she, as you know, she was amazing. We saw her in one of the consignment shops, and she was like, "Hey, you want to come see my show tonight?" And we were like, "Okay, this person." And then we're waiting for dinner, and she drives by on her scooter and insults Steve's haircut and says it'll come back someday. We were captivated, and we saw her show multiple times that weekend. And the whole ride home, all we could talk about was Miss Richfield 1981. And she sang live, and she had a message at the end. And I said, "Oh, well, if that's drag too, I'm in."
Oh, that's great. She does have a great message, and we help her every year at P-Town. She hosts this drag brunch to raise money for the women. Oh shoot, I can't think of the name. It's WOW, and but it raises money for the women in P-Town, and we help her with that. But she's a great person. So you saw Miss Richfield in P-Town. You decided, if that's drag, I want to be a part of it. Then what was your next step?
Well, then I came back home, and I knew that there was a show on Sunday night, and I went right into the club, and the club owner was Naomi Kane, and she did Tina Turner, and she was, funny, and she knew I was a big drinker at the time. She knew exactly who I was, and I said, "Well, I'd like to do a show. Is there like a night that she's like, "Yeah, baby, come on down on Sunday," and I was like, "Okay, Sunday." So there I was. The following week, I went and I found the first Mother of the Bride dress I can find, and I found a maternity outfit, and I did a version of Miss Richfield's Lime Jello Marshmallow Cottage Cheese Surprise. And I enjoy being a girl. And I rehearsed like over and over all week, and I had so much fun. And of course, it was a different kind of experience the first time. I just was doing it for fun, and then I kind of got hooked. It was the theater. I could do theater. I could create a character and do theater after work, and I didn't have to worry about, because my career wasn't allowing me to make it to rehearsals for theater companies, and so I was able to contain it, and it was something that Mr. Davis, Steve, and I can do together. And
so what was the reaction to the established Rochester Queens as you burst onto the scene?
Well, so in my mind, I thought, well, this is interesting. There's not a Miss Richfield. There's not a campy housewife mother character here. We've got, Darian Lake, who's bawdy and sexy and dirty. We've got Aggie Doon, who's a glamorous diva. We have Pandora Box, who was, at the time, she was like sort of the young pretty one, and Ambrosia Salad was the club kid. And I was like, well, in terms of theater, I was like, I'm not going to be a competition for them. Like they're not going to pick Pineapple Princess by Annette Funicello, like me. And so I was able to do this music that I loved so much, and I was able to fit in, and they were great. We have a wonderful community here where it was the whole drag family community where we teased each other, but we helped each other along the way.
All right, so you get regular gigs there in Rochester. How many clubs in Rochester were offering the stages to the queens?
Well, at the time, there were two, and it was Club Mothers and then Tilt. The big one was Marcella's, and it was previous. The day I moved to Rochester, that club closed, and I didn't know that. So I didn't know that. But so I gravitated to Mothers because it was Mom, and the other club was more like the dance club, and there was like spotlight performances. And so this was a cabaret style nightclub. And so I gravitated there. And then, so back then we did shows on Wednesday nights, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturday, Sunday. And I would do probably 3 days a week and crawl in like late at night and maybe have a couple more cocktails at home. And then wake up early in the morning and go to my day job. Well, the good news was that I didn't start until 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11, so I could kind of get through the morning. But that's when I was drinking. And that was, sometimes I think that was my motivation. I used to say, oh, I love to perform. But I also liked the free drinks at the time.
Always. All those drink tickets. All right, so you were performing multiple times a week. How long did you do that before you said, I'm going to audition for RuPaul?
Well, I'll tell you, right before that, Aggie Doon and I said, you know what? This nightclub performances are great. And she was booked with Naomi to do a impersonation show, you know, Tina Liza Cher bet, at a Italian party house in a suburb of Rochester. And she was booked for it. And he canceled. And he called me and he said, can you do it? Well, I thought I got this is before RuPaul's Drag Race. I mean, this was like, are you kidding me? I'm going to perform with the legendary Aggie Doon, and we're going to do. And so we have been doing this show now for 17 years. We're still doing it, and it's our quick change comedy impersonation show of all of the divas, and it's so much fun. And we've performed a little bit of it in P-Town, and it's just a joy. And so we were doing that, and we were doing a little bit of the nightclub stuff, and then Pandora Box gets cast on RuPaul's Drag Race season 2, and we thought, well, if she can do it, we could.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, and well, currently she's an all-star on All Stars again. This is her 3rd time. So Darian Lake then got cast, and I auditioned for all 7 seasons, and then finally on the 7th season, they said, if we don't get her on here, she's never going to leave us alone. And that's me. You know, I was brought up in this this work ethic where you just keep on keeping on and you keep trying. And so I made it my priority to be seen. And I learned a lot about my drag and myself in that process, because what I was trying to do is I was trying to give them who they already had on the show instead of just being me. And that was a big learning experience for me, because all too often I was just trying to be somebody else instead of just being my most genuine self.
Okay. I know you had to sign something that you couldn't talk much about the show. Can you talk now?
Oh, I can talk now. It's been years. So
okay. All right. So who was on the show with you that season?
Oh my gosh. Well, of course, we all know Trixie Mattel, Katya. So those two have their show called and Violet Chachki, she won. She's the waist. Not a waist, the waist. And Pearl and Max and Ginger Minge, who is currently on All Stars, and Jaden Dior Fierce and Jasmine Masters and Kennedy Davenport and Candy Ho. So we were the season 7, right after Bianca Del Rio won. So, I mean, there was this sort of like, you know, it's Bianca. I mean, that particular season really was incredible. And they tried to change some things for season 7 in terms of the marketing and the way that they played the game. So they went from sort of one style of drag to they wanted fashion. And they kept saying to us, we want fashion. And I was like, that's not what I gravitated towards. And then, of course, what did I do? I tried to give them what they wanted. And, you know, the experience was life-changing and positive. I have really nothing bad to say, but I will say that I was very guarded and still drinking at the time, and sort of just in my head. And I wasn't competing. Instead, I was trying to be a theater person and be like, we're all good. Let's all help each other. That doesn't work for reality television.
What was the biggest challenge other than trying to fit into their mold? What were some of the other challenges you had?
Well, I think that one of the biggest challenges for me at that point was being away from my husband and kids. And then also, you know, I was really heavily into my drinking at that time. And so during the day, to not be able to have my vices, I was probably going through withdrawal. That was a lot of panic. It brought on panic. And so that would kind of stop me in terms of the progress. It wasn't until just a few months after it was aired, probably a year after filming, that I ended up dropping to my knees and asking for help and got sober. So now I'm sober 6 years. So that's a joy.
Very, very good.
Better for me and for everybody around me. You know.
How has your life changed since your appearance there on Drag Race? How are people perceiving you? How do they perceive you? And why aren't you an all-star?
I don't know. Well, first and foremost, my life changed completely. I was thrown into the this platform of RuPaul's Drag Race, and I was given the opportunity to change my career. And I have a wonderfully supportive husband who said, let's do this together. And as I mentioned, crashed and burned in terms of self-doubt and not a lot of bookings. So I got sober. And in that sobriety, I started to realize, you know what, Ed, Mrs. Kasha Davis, this is a business, and you need to work this business and make those cold calls and make the connections with people like Miss Richfield and Coco Peru and Dixie Longgate, and start to say yes to interviews like this one. Do the things, do the work, get out there, make the connections, and like any business, things will continue to grow. And make your presence known on social media, make your presence known on YouTube, etc. And so then that's where the process began. So my life changed completely, and I was finally doing what I always wanted to do, and that is to be a full-time performer.
If I came to see your show, what would I see?
Well, you'd see a lot of dad jokes. I like Mrs. Kasha Davis, dad jokes in a dress. I'm goofy. I will sing live. I will get you laughing. And then I will get you to cry. I'll tell the truth. You know, I feel that especially now with so much, right? So much social media that you can't hide from. Well, you can. But I choose not to hide from the truth and to be as open as possible, because people can sense that. You know, when I worked in telemarketing, I was the manager, and I was a trainer sometimes, and director, blah, blah, blah. But what I was teaching people is that you need to present yourself and to listen to your caller and to dress in your dress code and to be present. And they'd be like, well, what's the difference? They can't see us. It's human beings. We can sense this back and forth through technology. So I think that it's so important that people are honest and open as entertainers. Because, like, let's face it, if you tweet Cher, she could reply. You know, there's that connection.
50-50.
Yeah.
Yes. Before COVID, what was your weekly or monthly schedule? And then what happened when COVID hit?
Oh, gosh. Well, so before COVID, I traveled pretty frequently throughout the month. And then I had a wonderful network of gigs here in the Rochester area. We have our drag brunch, and then we have our stand-up night. And then Aggie and I would do our big wigs performances. And these are things that Mr. Davis and I would do together. And then I had my drag story hour that I was doing at Blackfriars Theater. And what a joy. It became like the thing that I looked forward to the most. And so COVID hit, and I thought, well, Mr. Davis, I'm going to have to find another job, because what's a drag queen to do? You know, I thought, okay, I can post a couple things, but I don't know what that's going to do. And then I noticed some drag queens were just putting their Venmo or whatever. And I was like, well, that's just, that's not enough. That's, whatever you need to do. But I said, you know what? Let's do Storytime Live over our social media, because the parents that are watching or that are out there could use the break. Their kids can watch this. We did it twice a week, and our daughter picked the books. And so we did Storytime Live twice a week, and we got messages from all over the world. We ended up doing 100 Storytime Live shows. And then I would do like a Monday, I called it a makeover, but what I did was I took off my makeup and I shared some of my life experiences of things that helped me get through. And I tried to just put out all of that sort of positivity. And it was really self-care for me. But because of that, I started to get some more, some Zoom gigs and some interviews like this one. And I say, you say yes. If somebody asks, you find a way and you say yes, because when you do, you make connections and you never know what's next.
Well, the Department of Health has told me not to say yes so often. So I have to be a little leery of that.
Good one.